Na 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 na. Hey YouTube, welcome back to another exciting episode of Vin Plays Yahoo Fantasy Football. This is our Week 7 recap show where I'll go over our matchups, how we did, some of the things I noticed while watching some of these games, and we'll look ahead to the waiver wire for this week. So let's go ahead and dive into it. As you can see up top, we did emerge victorious. We somewhat made up for our pathetic, really sad performance of last week. We did. I think we were the high point team this week, so we have the highest score in the league. But that did come at a cost because our team is getting kind of banged up. Let's go ahead and start down the list here. Aaron Rodgers versus Deshaun Watson. It's kind of funny that I am against Deshaun Watson in this matchup against Christian Mingle here, and they were up against each other in the real life game too. So Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers does. He had a fantastic bounce back game from last week against Tampa Bay. He threw, I believe, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he threw 4 touchdowns. He looked great, just making passes, making great decisions. He looked like peak Aaron Rodgers, so we are very happy with his performance this week. We predicted, or everybody forecast essentially, that he was going to smash this week, and he certainly did smash. Up against Deshaun Watson, garbage time is a very real thing. Deshaun did not look great during this game, but as teams run up a lead like Green Bay did, they tend to let up on the gas pedal a bit. And Deshaun Watson did put up a very respectable game here. So, nothing to be ashamed of here. Points are points, even when they're done in garbage time. So, going down the list, Allen Robinson yesterday. This was a tough matchup, and he was shadowed for most of the night by Jalen Ramsey. The Bears were up against the Los Angeles Rams last night. So, this was a pretty ugly game, too. This was a kind of... I hate to say boring just because, I'm thankful just to have football at all this year. But yeah, this was kind of a ho-hum matchup here. He wasn't doing much for most of the game. Nick Foles did not look great. The whole offense doesn't look great, to tell the truth. They try to run with David Montgomery, but David Montgomery does not look good. He is getting the volume, though. He is getting a ton of touches. So, he's putting up points that way, but as far as real life football is concerned, he's not really helping to move the chains all that much. Allen Robinson is doing what he can do. Most of his points from last night came from one long bomb pass, about a 40-yard pass from Foles. But more or less, he didn't do too well, and I think he only got He didn't get his typical 9 to 10 targets. He only had, I want to say, around 4 targets. Let's check real quick. Let's scroll over here. Targets. Yeah, he only had 4 targets, see, for 70 yards. And 40 of those 70 yards was on one play. So, but, this was a tough matchup. And, better things should be coming up ahead. He is against New Orleans, which might be another tough matchup here because he probably will be shadowed by Lattimore. So that'll be a tough matchup for him. But the 2 games after that, Tennessee, I believe, is more of a neutral matchup. And then Minnesota should be a smash spot there. So going into the bye, yeah, that's the 2 of the next 3 matchups should be good for him. But anyways, 9 points as a floor, that's really good. Devontae Adams just had a nuclear explosion, though. He had two touchdowns, almost 200 yards. Yeah, 196 yards there. He looked great. He was open on every play, seemingly. I think Aaron Rodgers maybe missed him on 1 or 2 passes. But for the most part, Devontae Adams does what Devontae Adams does. He is easily one of the top, one of the top 2, 3 wide receivers in the league right now. He is amazing, and he definitely performed to and over expectations right here. Somebody who didn't perform to expectations is Josh Jacobs. This was a tough matchup again. He was playing against Tampa Bay. I did watch this game as well. Yeah, they just shut him down, and once they shut down the whole offense essentially. They did put up a better fight than Green Bay, I have to say. But as far as the run game is concerned, they totally shut down the run game. Nobody was getting anything done. Well, Nelson Aguilar and Darren Waller had pretty good games, but otherwise everybody else pretty much underperformed, including Josh Jacobs. Looking further into a schedule, Cleveland should be a pretty good game. They don't have the greatest defense. The Chargers might be a little bit tough. Melvin Ingram is still back and he's still playing. Denver is going to be pretty tough. But then it opens up with Kansas City and Atlanta. Oh, and New Jersey. Okay, yeah. So, better things are in the future here better games are in the future for Josh Jacobs, that is. So we're not too worried about him. But yeah, we're expecting a down week for him against Tampa Bay, and he definitely gave us a down week. Chris Carson did underperform, but that's more so because he got hurt. It's a good thing that Devontae Adams exploded and overperformed because, yeah, our starting running backs really did not perform all that well. Chris Carson did look good during this game, except, yeah, he got hurt. He had a mid-foot sprain. And during the game, actually, he was taken off the field. I think he walked off the field. He wasn't even helped up off the field. And they looked at him, but he didn't go into the locker room or anything. He was on the sidelines for most of the game, and he was just kind of walking around on the sidelines. They didn't put him back in. And from the news that I heard recently, and it even listed over here, he is considered week to week. So, and it is widely expected that he's going to miss this week's game, week 8. So, I'll get into this a little bit more when we get into the waiver wire. But his handcuff, Carlos Hyde, is also banged up, and there's also question marks as to whether or not he'll be playing this week also. So if those, and not only that, but the third string running back, Travis Homer, is also banged up. So 3 of the 4 running backs on this squad on Seattle are banged up. The only healthy one is their late round rookie, Dallas, I believe is his name. And he did not look great when he was in there against Arizona this week, which, by the way, was a fantastic game. It was, man, it was a crazy game. It went into overtime. DK Metcalf was pretty much shut down by Patrick Peterson, or at least Russell Wilson wasn't looking to throw to him because he was shadowed by Patrick Peterson, which more or less solidifies my thoughts that DK Metcalf is the number 1 on that team as far as real life football is concerned, and probably even fantasy. I'd expect DK Metcalf to outscore or to be the top fantasy option on that team at the end of the year versus Tyler Lockett. That being said, though, Tyler Lockett as a number 2, he was the number 1 fantasy wide receiver this week. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 200 yards. He was amazing. And, that's partly because he did not receive top attention like DK Metcalf did during this game. But anyways, I guess that's neither here nor there. We don't have either of those players on our team. We would like those players on our team, but we don't have those players on our team. We have Chris Carson, who is injured. And yeah, we're going to have to see who else we could start in his place for next week, and actually who we are going to consider picking up off the waiver wire to replace him. Hopefully this is only going to be a 1 or 2 week injury, but he is probably going to be out this week in the very least, so we'll have to consider our options. Going down the list though, like I alluded to earlier, Darren Waller did pretty good. He was the top target during this game. He did score a touchdown, which did bolster his numbers a bit. Let's check how many targets he got. Yeah, 9 targets. He was the only one making anything happen during this game as far as the receivers are concerned. Well, him and a little bit of Nelson Aguilar, like I said before. But Nelson Aguilar was, I think, was just 2 or 3 more longer bombed passes. And I don't believe Nelson Aguilar, well, he might have scored. I don't recall right now. I didn't really keep a close eye on this game, but from what I've seen and read, Darren Waller did do very well, and yeah, every game that goes by, we are feeling good about that trade we made for him a few weeks ago. Going down the list, I did start Antonio Gibson this week, considering because I believe during my starter video last week I was leaning towards starting Robert Woods, but after considering a Josh Jacobs situation, I decided to go more towards upside. So I was trying to think about, I was more or less choosing between Antonio Gibson and DeAndre Swift for this week. I ended up settling on Antonio Gibson just because of his matchup versus Dallas. I heard how the game script would really fall into his favor when playing against Dallas, and it definitely did, because Washington was up for more of this game. You know, in positive game scripts going forward, yeah, Antonio Gibson will be a very good start, or should be a pretty good start. So I ended up starting him over Robert Woods. And looking at the bench, actually, Robert Woods did not perform well last night. And you know, we even talked about it last week, or during my my starter show. Dampened expectations were for Robert Woods because Chicago does have a good defense, and he had a little bit of a better night than his points show here. He just ended up dropping, he ended up fumbling, so it took down his score a little bit. It took down his points, you know, a couple of points because of that fumble. But otherwise, you know, the Rams couldn't really get too much going, although, you know what, they did score a bunch. This was an ugly game, but Jared Goff did throw a couple of touchdowns to his tight ends. I think Higbee was out for this game. There were some tight ends that I just didn't recognize. Gerald Everett was playing. I think he scored a touchdown. I'm not exactly sure about that. But there was another tight end that scored a touchdown that I was not familiar with. And I believe Josh Reynolds also scored a touchdown in this game. But for the most part, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, so they did catch a few passes, but being the main focus of the defense, their performance was kind of dampened this week. Going down, just taking a peek at our bench, we actually did pick up a couple of people from last week who exploded. We picked up Deontay Johnson here, who more or less solidified his number one wide receiver status on the Pittsburgh Steelers. In that pecking order, he is number one. He got the most targets, and this was his first game back from injury. So this was a great pickup for us. We ended up dropping Damian Harris for him because another team dropped him during the middle of the week, I believe on Thursday or Friday. They dropped him, so I ended up putting a waiver claim for him, a $0 waiver claim, which surprisingly went through. I wasn't sure if it was going to go through or not, but it ended up coming through. And moving forward, yeah, he should be the number one on his team. And yeah, just this is a great pickup. The only problem is he did get injured during this game. Right now, it's reported to not be serious, but we'll keep an eye out on him. And his matchup for this week is Baltimore, so we definitely won't be playing him this week. But then after Baltimore, Dallas, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and then Baltimore again. But those three games those are cherry matchups right there. And I would easily start him over Robert Woods, well, depending on Robert Woods' matchups, but I would lean towards starting him over Robert Woods moving forward, particularly with those matchups. Like against Dallas, yeah, that's a definite smash spot right there. But we also picked up Gio Bernard here because we heard that, we heard early that Joe Mixon was injured and would not play during Week 7, and he did not play. And he was Giovanni Bernard, that is, was an option that I was considering for this week. From what I read, he didn't do too much on the ground, but he did score a touchdown. So, you know, he did catch a bunch of passes, which is what Gio more or less is good at. He didn't do much on the ground, but he did score passes. He will be a consideration again this week if Joe Mixon doesn't play, which I'm expecting him not to play just because they have a bye next week. So if he's coming back from injury, unless he is 100% healthy, like 150% healthy, it would make sense for the team to hold him out for another week and let him get an extra week with the bye coming up of rest. So we'll see how that goes, but Gio Bernard did do well this week, and he will be in consideration for next week if Joe Mixon doesn't play. So since Chris Carson is probably going to be out, hopefully, fingers crossed, the Cincinnati Bengals go the safe route and hold Joe Mixon out for one more week, and then we could start him. Let's actually look at his matchup for next week. If it's a good matchup, then we probably will. Against Tennessee, that is a neutral matchup. So, yeah, we will be considering him or DeAndre Swift, who did do well again. He scored a touchdown. He did get most of the work. He didn't get a vast majority of the work. He did get over 50% of the, or it says 45% here, but 45% of the total snaps, it says here. Kerryon Johnson did get some snaps, but he never carried the ball or saw any touches. So he is getting the lion's share, pun intended, of those snaps and touches when compared to Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson. Hopefully it continues to trend that way. I did catch a little bit of this game, and he, by and large, looks way better than Adrian Peterson or Kerryon Johnson. So like anytime that he touches the ball, it seems like he could run it in for a touchdown essentially. So yeah, hopefully things continue to trend upwards for him. This week's matchup against Indiana is not a great matchup though, so we'll see how that goes. I will be leaning against not starting him for this week anyways. Hopefully we could start Gio. But after this week, he is up against Minnesota and Washington, Carolina. Yeah, there is a great stretch of games here. Those 4 games up until Chicago. And then after Chicago, Green Bay. Man, yeah. There's a lot of good games here for DeAndre Swift. Just not for this week. Carson Wentz did do well. I'm considering actually dropping him, though, because I was looking at his schedule. This week he should do great, but next week he's on bye. And next week is actually when Week 9 is actually when Aaron Rodgers does have a tough matchup, I believe against Chicago. He does have a tough matchup on Week 9, so I was considering streaming Aaron Rodgers in case he didn't do well this week, which he did do super well this week, so I'll probably just play him for Week 9. But Carson Wentz, maybe I'll try to trade him this week, and because I'm thinking about dropping him for Tua, just to have somebody to sit on for just as a speculation ad, just in case Tua ends up being really good. Because the scouting report on Tua is that he does run and he does throw pretty accurately. And we're seeing right now running quarterbacks, even running quarterbacks that aren't doing so well, like as far as the passing game is concerned, like Kyler Murray, he is killing it as a quarterback right now. And I've seen about 2 or 3 games of his this year, and he doesn't look like the best quarterback. But as far as, traditional quarterback pocket passing and that kind of stuff, the decisions he makes, even, he doesn't look like the best quarterback out there. But he is more than making up for it by running. It's like any time that he doesn't see a pass opening up or anyone open to pass to, he's able to run it for like 10 yards. So yeah, if Tua could emulate that somewhat, he will be a good quarterback this year, as early as this year, his rookie year. And not only that, but we're encouraged somewhat by Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is killing it, and Joe Burrow is killing it. So yeah, rookie quarterbacks are doing well this year. And I think there's a significant chance that Tua could be one of those good rookie quarterbacks for this year. Let's go ahead and peek on the side of our opponent here. We did smash, but he did have some solid plays here. Chase Claypool just totally disappeared since Deontay Johnson came back. So, I know a lot of analysts, or from what I saw on Twitter, a lot of the Twitter buzz was that he would have a down week for Week 7 since Deontay Johnson came back, but nobody foresaw that him having this bad of a week. Yeah, he did not do well. Kenny Golladay did pretty well, but we expected him to do a little bit better than that since he was at a smash spot against Atlanta. I watched parts of this game again, and he was covered fairly well. Anything that was thrown within his area, though, he pretty much just sucked up. But he did well, not as well as I thought. Henderson did okay, but against Chicago, Chicago is a great defense, so dampened expectations there. That's about as high as the ceiling that we foresaw for him since he didn't score without scoring a touchdown. So James Conner did relatively okay. He didn't score a touchdown either, so all of that on the ground. Actually, I don't think he scored a touchdown. Did he score a touchdown? Okay, one rushing touchdown it seems that he scored. But, ho-hum, and Tennessee was a neutral matchup there, so he more or less lived up to expectations there. Eric Ebron, wow, that's a lot actually. I didn't even notice Eric Ebron. Did he score a touchdown? Doesn't look like he scored a touchdown, so that's pretty high. That's pretty good for not scoring a touchdown. Eric Ebron might be coming into his own here. Tyler Boyd, that is a really good score for Tyler Boyd against Cleveland, though. Cleveland's defense, particularly in their secondary, isn't all that great. Tyler Boyd is pretty much the number one on that squad now, though. So, although I've read that AJ Green is performing better, and T. Higgins is doing pretty well on that team as well. So, AJ Green is probably the number 2 on that squad now, and then we have Tyler Boyd as the number 1 and T. Higgins as the number 3. Joe Burrow, though, is doing really well, and he is passing really well, so he can. I think it's within the realm of possibilities that he will continue to support three wide receivers going forward. So that pretty much does our matchups for this week. That pretty much goes over our matchup for last week. We were rated an A, not that I pay much attention to these ratings, from Yahoo. Let's go ahead and look at our league standings real quick. This win and this influx of points moved us to 3rd place. Vaughn, like Donkey Kong, did win, but the draft did have an explosion of points as well. I think he had somewhere around 145 points for the week, which pushed him into 1st place. Looking at other metrics, our points scored is at 863. That is about 4th place. Yeah, so that is 4th place amongst the rest of the field right now. So I'm feeling relatively good about that. And just looking at everybody else's scores right now, we are in parity, in relative parity with our rankings right now as far as total points scored and our rankings. Everybody who's in the playoffs right now, ranked 6th and above, do have the highest scores, total points that is, in the league. So that's really good as to how fair my league is going so far. Let's go ahead and jump into my team and look at the waiver wire claims that I have so far. Right now, I just have a claim for Carlos Hyde. If I knew Carlos Hyde was healthy, was good to go for this week, I'd probably put in like a $5 to $10 fab bid on him. But since he's banged up and there's questions as to whether he'll play, and if he does play, if he's banged up, he could get hurt too. He does not have a stellar health record, so he is. I wouldn't call him injury prone, but he has been injured over the years. So I'm kind of reluctant to put any money down on him. And we could still lean on hopefully Gio Bernard, or our emergency break glass here would be DeAndre Swift. But we'll check that out. Well, I'll consider making a bid. Maybe I'll put a $1 or $2 bid on him. But as of right now, I'm not really comfortable putting a big bid on Carlos Hyde. And then right there, I just have Rob Gronkowski for Tony Pollard. Oh, and I'm looking to get rid of Tony Pollard too, just because of just how awful Dallas looks over the last couple of weeks. And not only that, Andy Dalton did suffer a concussion. He is hurt, and there's questions as to whether or not he is going to play this week. If he doesn't play this week, I don't think you could trust anybody on that Dallas team. if you have Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, you're going to start those guys, but you can't feel good about starting them, and you're going to have to expect to have fewer points. Your expectations have to be lowered if Andy Dalton doesn't play. But even if Andy Dalton plays, he looks absolutely awful. And it's not his fault either. Well, not entirely his fault anyways, because their O-line is just totally decimated. They can't stop anybody. So all things being considered, even if Ezekiel Elliott goes down or misses some games, I don't think I could trust Tony Pollard. So that being said, I'd much rather have my handcuff for Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde, or even Rob Gronkowski, because Gronkowski has been looking legit. These last few games, he looks like he's getting into shape, and he looks like especially considering tight ends and the tight end landscape that we find ourselves in, he looks like he could easily be maybe not a top 5 tight end, but a top 8 tight end moving forward. So I wouldn't mind speculating on him, and thusly I'm making a claim on him over Tony Pollard. And going back to what I said earlier, I will consider dropping Carson Wentz, or actually offering Carson Wentz in a trade, just so I could speculatively add Tua Tagovailoa, I should say, just in case he ends up being Kyler Murray-esque, or like some of these other rookie quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert is just absolutely killing it this year. Man, he is making Charger games fun to watch this year. If you haven't caught a Charger game this year, I highly recommend watching one just to see Justin Herbert throw. He is going to be going to be a great player for years to come. But anyways, that pretty much goes over what's going on with my team right now. Did you win your matchups? Did you fall victim to a Devontae Adams or Tyler Lockett explosion this week? I want to hear about it. Go ahead and comment below and let me know. And thanks again so much for watching another episode of Vin Plays Yahoo Fantasy Football, and I'll see you next time.